Welcome to the Property Gurus. Today we're going to show you how to replace an old leaking felt flat roof. Felt has been used in the UK for a very long time on flat roofs like this one. It's still a good material to work with, so we are actually going to recover it with felt. It will last for a very long time, but this roof here has a few particular design flaws that we will highlight in this video. So if we just flip now quickly onto the finished product, you can see what we've done. We'll go through this in a lot more detail, but this is a refreshed, new, fantastic felt roof that will not leak and has been designed to avoid the problems that the original old one had. So before we get started on all of that, let's have a look inside the house at what the problem was. Here we are on site, and we have two problems with the flat roof above us. You can see here we've got a stain that's appeared in the right hand corner, which is causing the paint to flake off on the wall and also on the ceiling. So we've got water ingress coming down in this corner, causing major damage. And then if we pan across to the other part, it's not quite in the corner, although there is some in the corner, but we've got the same issue here. We've got the paint is starting to come away from the wall and the ceiling, and if we look all the way into the corner, we've got a little bit of water damage in the corner, but most of the damage is not quite in the corner. So both sections of the back wall, the rest of the roof seems to be in good order. There's no additional water damage. It's just in these two back sections. So let's go and have a look up on the roof and see if we can work out what the problem is. Okay, so here we are on the roof itself, and this is an old felt roof. It's in reasonable condition given its age. We can't see any major cracks or splits on the surface itself, so it isn't letting in water from that route. We think the issue is with the joint between the felt and the parapet wall. You can see where the felt has been lapped up. They've actually cemented the top. You can see the smooth section above the top of the felt at the bottom of the wall. That's just cement, and that isn't a waterproof joint. So water will be able to penetrate through that, and that's where we think the issue is coming. What you should have there is where the wall and the felt are meeting, there should be a lead skirting, which would just form an impenetrable barrier, and that's what you see on most roofs. If we have a look over at the other side here, you can see where the felt finishes before the white, there's actually a lead piece that's been cut into the wall and is then over the top of the felt, and that's giving double protection. So it means as the water runs down this wall, it's not able to seep in and penetrate through. So what we need to do is cut a section across the whole of this parapet wall, across the back here and the side wall, and then insert some lead flashing. And the plan for the roof itself is actually to apply 2 layers of new felt on top of this felt. As we said before, this felt is actually still waterproof, the main section of it. So we'll use that as our base layer, and then we'll put a new layer of undercoat on top of that, and then a top coat layer as well. So we'll have extra felt. So let's have a look at the felt itself. This is 8mm mineral coated felt, so it looks a bit like gravel. It feels rough when you touch the front surface of it, which is good because it's easier if you need to walk on it. The underside's critical. What you've got is a plastic layer here that when it's heated, this melts and becomes very malleable and sticky, so you're able to stick it down firmly onto whatever surface you're putting it onto. So what we're going to do here, we're going to put an 8mm felt underlay and then this top coat on top. So we'll have 16mm of additional felt on top of the old roof. So the first task for the guys is to fit the drip section on the side of the roof. We've got a parapet wall on the other two sides, so we'll be dealing with that differently in a minute, but this section here, the way this roof has been designed, the water is actually falling towards this section, and there is a gutter which has been removed here, but you can see the clips. So the gutter collects the water and feeds it into the downpipe. So this is where all of the water will be directed towards. So we need to make sure that this section is extra waterproofed and there are no issues with it. So you can see what we're doing is we're taking a small piece of the felt and we are forming it round the existing felt that's on this drip section. So we've cut it to size, got it prepared. So let's now look at it being heated and applied. Okay, so we've lit the blowtorch, and that's literally a case of just heating the back of the felt. So just applying that heat all across the back section of the felt so that it starts to melt, starts to become malleable, hot and workable, so that we can then work this into the shape that we need it to be to fit onto and stick to the edge of this drip section. So this is quite hot. You can see that it's floppy and it's really quite sticky, and then you can see it's hot on the fingers, but it's then a case of literally just pushing this into place, and where the underside has melted, it will then stick and form a hard barrier and be permanently stuck down onto the section of felt from previous section. So that's all pushed into place, and then we'll just heat the top section of it so that we've got an edge that we can then lap over the top of when we start laying the felt sections on the roof itself. So same process, apply the torch to the back of the felt so that it starts to melt all of the underside, and you see the smoke coming off it. And now that it's really hot and melted, just press that down into place, and that will stick onto the corner section of the roof here, and then we will apply the longer sections of the felt over that edge to make sure that there is no way that water can penetrate through and get into this house ever again. So jumping forward, here we can see the guys are using an angle grinder to chase into the wall a 25mm gap that the lead will be fed into, and then it will be worked into shape. So we'll show you that in a second, but we're just showing the guys cutting the section out. And then if we jump forward, here we can see the channel that's been created. So this is towards the bottom of the wall. This is where the lead will be fed into and then folded down to create an impenetrable barrier over the top of the new felt as it's lapped up the wall. So it's important here, just from an aesthetic point of view, to make sure that this is a nice, crisp, clean line. You can see here, looks pretty sharp once the lead's in. So it's going to look similar to that lead, but obviously newer and a bit more attractive. So back on the roof, what we're doing here is actually laying the felt. So you can see that that requires basically a blowtorch, heating each section part by part so that the underside of the felt becomes heated and malleable and basically melting, and then you literally just lay that down piece by piece. So if you look at the rest of the roof where the guy in the blue hoodie is standing, you can see that we've already laid some underlay, and that's been done in a crisscross pattern. So the original felt that was down, which we're going on top of, was going from side to side. We've then laid the underlay from the opposite direction, 90-degree angle, and now we're putting the felt layer on top across that as well. And that's just creating a further waterproof barrier to make it even more difficult for the water to be able to seep through if there's any sitting water. So if we just flick over a bit further forward, the key section here is round the edges of the wall where the parapet wall is. So you can see we're heating the felt, and we'll actually be lapping it up in the same way as the original felt was lapped up against the bottom of the wall. And you can see we're just lifting that up now. So it creates basically an internal upstand. So it means that any water that does get on the roof that may be sitting, it's not able to penetrate down into the wall below. It's going to have a barrier there because this felt is one continuous piece. and then we'll show you in a second that we will then put some lead on top of that, which is going to sit in the channel that we've just shown you that's been cut out. And that then means that any water that is coming down from rain or running down the side of that wall also is unable to get into the corner of this joint. So the corners are all the critical parts. That's often where you'll find the leak has occurred, where you've finished laying the felt and where it meets another wall. So we need to apply some extra protection there. So that's how we're doing all of the felt. Now let's have a quick look at the lead that we're putting on top of this. So here we are back in detail looking at this channel. So we've got a piece of lead, and this is code for lead, which is 150 mil lead, and that is formed into a small L shape. So you can see some of it is pushed into the chase itself, into the channel. And then what the guy's doing here is actually taking some small offcuts of lead, rolling them up and making them into just small sections that will just keep that lead in place. So it's rolling it up and then just feeding all of those in just to keep the lead firmly in place. Then once that's been done, he will then cement over that to make sure that the lead can't move and isn't going anywhere anytime in the future. So this will be done all the way around the whole of the roof. So all the felt is now laid, all in position. You can see that it's been lapped up against the bottom of the wall to make sure that water can't get in anywhere where that joint is. And this lead is just providing extra protection, which means that any water that's coming down the wall is unable to get into the gap or any gap that would occur between the wall and the lead. So that's all of the work that's being done. Let's have a look at the finished product. So here we are now that all the work's been completed. You can see that the lead has now all been put in place. We've cemented the gap that was above the lead, and we've actually also put a fiberglass resin coating over the top of that to give it extra waterproof protection. So you can see that the lead is forms quite a large overhang over the felt, which is lapping up behind that lead. So you've got double protection. You've got the felt, which is turned all the way up towards the lead, and then the lead, which is overhanging as well. And on the section of the house that we showed you earlier, we had to pull that lead up earlier. That's all been formed back into place. So we've now got the finished protected roof structure. So let's have a look at that from a little bit higher up to give us a bit more perspective. So here we are looking down on the roof. You can see fantastic new felt covering, really impressive. This won't leak. This will be waterproof for at least the next 20 years. It comes with a 10-year guarantee. So thank you for watching. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe. We're the Property Gurus, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you.